And we are coming down in three, two, one. Welcome to Getting Sports with Drunk. Rat of a Red Baron here, joined by...
The Mass Chris Massey.
That's right, the dynamic duo is at it again.
Always fun when it's just you and me.
And don't be surprised by our less than thrilled and jumping off the page attitudes. We're excited to be here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good time, guys.
Just a little burned out.
Oh, life will do that to you.
Well, as of us recording on Monday here, it's Memorial Day of 2024. So us regular people of the world, we had our 3-day weekend and whatnot. And as that goes, it's always like a jam packed. Like, how many possible things can you fit into it?
Yeah, no kidding.
But as we do, as always at the show, you drinking anything?
I am on my third margarita of the night.
Wow. Had a couple of pre-show margs. Get things going.
Good. Yes, sir. How about you?
I have here, I had some people over, and one of my favorite things when people come over is when they leave their beers. That's like an all-time favorite of mine. So I got some Miller Lights hanging out on deck, and then Rebecca had wanted to get these. I'm sure you've seen them, the Smirnoff Ice Red, White, and Berry. And
Oh yeah, Don was drinking those this weekend.
yeah, and, it's a kind of a joke type drink, for us guys. But to pay some sort of homage and the patriotic parts of what today is actually about. It's not just a 3-day weekend. I figured it would be somewhat appropriate to drink the red, white, and blue beverage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any toasts?
Man. There's one I had. Give me a second. I have it on my phone right here. Do you have one to go with off the riff?
I do. This right here is not sports related, but I saw this on Instagram recently. Actually, it went out even today. Someone converted a cement mixer, and they changed the mixing portion into like a cocktail shaker. That they redesigned the shape, and it holds alcohol, so it goes to functions, and you can get like whatever, be it a mixed drink or if it's just straight, whatever. And I just thought, like, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I would be pretty stoked about that. That'd be pretty
cool. And then also, I mean, not necessarily a toast, but just kind of like like, so they're getting involved in the game. I just saw this too. So Jack Links is now making a Bloody Mary mix,
nice.
and I am intrigued as a fan of the Bloody Mary. I mean, I feel like there's potential there, but I don't know. I think it's just a lot of smoke and mirrors, but it kind of grabbed my attention.
Yeah, no, I'm big out on that. I mean, in fairness, I'm not big into Bloody Marys as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not my favorite. But big out on that just overall. That sounds like a batch not made in heaven. My toast of excellence was actually to Greg Olson, who was recently demoted to the number 2 team at Fox, but he just won an Emmy for Outstanding Personality / Event Analyst.
Oh.
So, good on you, Greg Olson.
Yeah, it's funny about him, and I'm sure we've talked about this in depth. I remember when he was like playing football, and on like his bye weeks, he'd come and call games, and I thought he did a great job. Mm-hmm. Then when he kind of got the job as a full-timer retired, just analyst, I became less interested. I don't know. It just
I always thought he did a good job. I never minded having him on the broadcast. He wasn't like early Tony Romo levels of good, but he still gave pretty decent insight into a lot of what was happening. I don't know. I liked him.
yeah. I mean, I'm very I'm hot and cold, and I think in general, other than like Kevin Burkhardt, who I kind of hold at a different, I hold him at a high standard because he was the Mets on-field guy, and so I have a bias there. Like the crew that foursome of people I didn't love. Like, why can't I think of? I always want to call him Ed Werder. It's not him though.
Call him what?
Ed Werder.
Oh, I know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the male on-field reporter across from Aaron Andrews. Oh my God!
What's his name?
I could picture his face. Just the listeners absolutely no good.
Yeah, I'll find his name, but keep talking.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't. I find him very off-putting, and just like that group of people, and they would do like the commercials previewing the games that they're gonna do, and it was like a very try hard, let's be funny like segment for Fox, and I don't know. I just kind of became turned off about it. So I mean, it's not like, not to say that like Greg Olson isn't trying, because he's out there, he's doing the work. It's not mailing it in. Just I don't know. I became very disinterested in like the Fox broadcast.
Yeah. Fox has been like, how do I say this? Pretty in the dumps since Buck and Aikman left.
Yeah, that was a big shot to them.
Because I can't think of a single other like now that they're gone, it was Olsen and Burkhart, and then who?
Yeah, like I could think of individual people who I know that are on, like I know like Mark Sanchez is on the Fox, one of the teams as a color guy. I know that Daryl Johnston is a color guy. I know that oh my God, Jonathan Vilma. I think
Ian Fitzsimmons.
Yes, I want to say that's right. Kenny Harlan, I think, is on there. Maybe with Jonathan Vilma. Is it Vilma and Harlan?
Vilma, yep. Vilma was one.
But so it's like for me as a watcher, and it's like it's all preference. I just I like the CBS product so much more, from the way they do the television graphics to the analysts. Just in general, I think CBS has it all over Fox for NFL, in my opinion.
Yes, I would agree.
It'll be interesting now to see that like the NFL today without those big names in Boomer and Sims now gone. I wonder how I'll feel, just because those guys were just on TV for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in general, like I wax and wane with the Tony Romo thing. Jim Nantz is a legend. I don't love him.
He's all right. He's very whatever.
Yeah, he's the stereotypical announcer. He's nothing to be excited about. He just does the job, and that's fine. But I don't know.
I think I have the guy. Is it Chris Myers that's on the field with her?
No, that another guy. Good grab on him though. He's another on-field guy. I know he might be the number 2 squads.
Because Pam Oliver is also down there with her.
Yeah, because she was the number 1 with Aikman and Joe Buck for a long time, but then she got the cut.
Which is a shame, because I do like Pam Oliver.
She did a good job.
But I can't find any male
I
guys
I wouldn't
that's
even
on
worry.
the field.
Like he's just such a forgettable guy. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe he's like related to some executive producer, and that's why he's on that.
yeah,
Um,
probably knowing Fox.
but anyway, now that I've digressed, congrats to Olsen for getting the Emmy.
Yep.
And
Um, yeah. We also need to do a sip silence today.
yes,
Um, Earlier today, Monday, May 27th, the late great um Bill Walton passed away following a battle with cancer. Um, so, one of the premier figures in the NBA, just one of the best commentators for the sport. Um, Going to be missed.
absolutely.
So, quick sip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where we are.
Yes, sir. Well, I guess we'll just do kind of like a quick State of the Union, touch base on just stuff that's pertinent to right now.
Yeah.
We know that the Mavericks are up 3-0
Yep.
in their series right now.
As are the Celtics, who are playing tonight. Celtics have been less of a convincing team than the Mavericks. Mavericks have looked in control pretty much the entire way. They gave up a little bit of a lead last night, although they never ceded it to the Timberwolves. But I think they were up 20 at some point, and they let Minnesota come back into it to get pretty close. And they've done that a couple times. Game 2 was also another one where Luka had to hit a clutch shot late to seal the game. But it has been all Mavs all week.
I would imagine. I mean, I'm definitely not a sports bettor. I think they'll clean that series up, and it'll be a sweep.
Yeah.
As far as Boston goes, I would imagine they're going to win that series. But I'm kind of with you. I think in this matchup, the Dallas just seemed kind of more in the driver's seat than Boston has.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the type of thing like Boston's been a pretty dominant team all year. I don't know if they're cooling off because the season is so long and they're kind of at that point where everything seems to catch up to you, or if maybe that's just the makeup of their team and they're going to play closer games and not finish the stuff that.
Well, so remember, they're also missing Porzingis.
Correct. Who's done, correct?
No, if he's not back tonight, which I don't think he is because they're up 3-0. Yeah, he's DNP tonight. If they were down, he could have come back tonight, but they're going to rest him because if they win tonight, they got another 8 days before they play.
Which it makes sense,
But he's not done for the series.
Okay. I feel like I got. Okay. I feel like I got conflicting reports reading. I don't know if I was reading old information or what, but I thought he was kind of like a wrap for the rest of the season.
Well, when he got hurt at first, people thought he was.
I gotcha.
But yeah, he's definitely going to be back in it for the Mavs series, which is going to be certainly very interesting to watch because that just adds a whole nother layer to their defense where right now you have obviously defensive player of the year in Drew Holiday, who is playing very good defense for the Celtics right now. And then Jalen and Al Horford have also been playing pretty good defense so far, but Porzingis being back in there will just hopefully give them a good matchup with Luka. It's going to be really interesting to watch and see if the Mavericks can have players like PJ and oh, buddy, give me a second. His name's coming to me. Give me a second. And Scafford really continue to come through for them. Because I imagine while Luka and Kyrie are gonna still be pretty effective pieces for them, the game's gonna be won based off their supporting cast.
Right.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see how that matchup really pans out.
I will say, for me, kind of speaking as perhaps like the true representative of the casual NBA fan, I would definitely lean towards watching a Celtics Dallas finals. That I think that has intrigue for me, and not just because that's where these conference championships are leaning towards. Just in general, like if I knew going into the year that these were going to be the final four teams, I would probably pick these two anyway. So I think there is intrigue to just a regular casual fan that, alongside people who root for those teams.
That's fair. I personally think it'll be hilarious if Boston doesn't end up winning this year, because all year long they've been crowned as, the team. The finals is theirs to lose this year.
Oh, absolutely.
And their biggest threat in the West was
it OKC?
Not OKC. It was Jokic.
In Denver?
Denver Nuggets. Thank you. That was their biggest threat. And then you also have teams that could have actually come out of there and threatened them as well. I mean, at any point in time, OKC, I guess, yes. But I was thinking like Milwaukee could have really given them a run for their money. Cleveland did give them a little bit of competition. If Miami had Jimmy Butler, that would have been a much different series, I think. I still think they win, but it would have been a much different series. And I mean, they've had all their big, since the beginning of the season, big opponents circled are all eliminated. And they've had to play one of them, I think, in Miami. I don't think they've had to play anybody else in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So having all of your quote unquote competition eliminated, getting to the finals and losing would just be imminently hilarious.
Yeah. Well, as a great hater of all things Boston sports, I would very much appreciate, them not making it would be hilarious. But losing ultimately, in the finals would be just as fine with me. I agree exactly with what you're saying. That was a team that was early on crowned as, well, this is the team to beat. And for as dominant of a regular season they have had, I don't remember how many wins they had. I think, did they crack 100, right?
Who?
Boston?
I don't think that they did.
Oh, wait a minute. Why am I saying that?
I'm pretty sure that there's only 82 games of the season.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. I was thinking, in my head, I was thinking baseball.
Celtics won 64 games.
So forget that incorrect statement.
You can tell we're tired, folks.
Yeah. But a team that was dominant kind of during their regular season has definitely not had the same oomph in the playoffs. Yeah. They've had a lot of series that probably have gone longer than they should have.
Yes. Although I think Boston only gave up one to the Heat and only one up to the Cavs. So I think they've only lost twice. They might have lost twice to Cleveland. I don't remember. But they've definitely only lost twice. Or won at least twice.
Right.
but that might be it.
But I guess like in like a quick summary, like I would think it's just good for basketball if they do play in the finals, just from a historical standpoint. Because I think that type of stuff does matter a little bit. But I'm with you. If they don't,
They'll be the all-time leaders if they win, right?
I gotta imagine. I don't know all
Because
that.
they're tied with the Lakers right now.
Then yeah, they definitely have to. They would be the leaders.
But
Whatever
yeah,
that number.
it would certainly be interesting.
Yeah.
A lot
So
of teams overperformed in playoffs this year. The Timberwolves are probably 2 years ahead of where anybody expected them to be. OKC again is a very good young team that will only continue to get better. The Knicks honestly got further than anybody expected them to with all the injuries that they had. The Pacers, I think, came a lot further than anybody expected them to. So a lot of like young teams coming through early, which is cool to see.
definitely an exciting time for basketball. Like we've kind of had the past 2 weeks, we've seen a change. This year for sure.
And there's a lot of parity in the NBA right now because the defending champion for the last 3 years has been eliminated in the second round. So the Nuggets got bounced in the second round, and then who was it the year before that? Golden State got bounced in the second round the year before that, and then Milwaukee got bounced in the second round. So a lot of parity in the NBA, which is always cool to see. We love to see parity in
Absolutely.
the league. But yes, it is a very fun and exciting time. But why don't you take us through what I'm terrible at and tell us about some baseball?
Well, a big thing right now, I would say that the biggest story is Ronald Acuna, losing another season to an ACL. Unfortunately, such a young player and such a star has had such issues with the second time having an ACL injury. He had a shortened year in 2020. And baseball is funny. Like you can either come back from an injury like that and have a very long career, or you can kind of have like we'll call it the Mike Trout syndrome, and just these things that they start off as naggy just kind of become this habitual can't shake it, and then you have the what could have been conversation. So I don't know, we're sort of at that like, ooh, what do you call his career to this standpoint? It sucks. It's tough, and as a Mets fan, you're always like, screw the Braves, but you hate to see it. Star players. So, but that's for sure the big talking point right now. As far as Atlanta goes, that's a team that I think will have no trouble. There's certain teams that succeed in baseball. Atlanta, the Dodgers, Yankees, Houston, the flavor of the moment. I think Atlanta will be fine. There's enough firepower there for that team. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series, but I think they're still a contender to win the NL East. Their biggest competition in Philadelphia, you could make the argument for the best team in baseball right now. They're just tearing it up. It's a shame Kyle isn't on because there's the conversation about, they've had an easy schedule to this point, and something that I sort of subscribe to a little bit. The contrarian viewpoint is that everyone plays the same schedule, and so you would think that eliminates that talking point. But like, if you're playing bad teams at the start of the year and you're winning those games, then yeah, that matters. You know,
Yeah.
so what if the team turns it around by the end of the year? Like you won those games when they were bad. It's
Right.
like so it's sort of a moot conversation, but I think there's facts to it. As far as the rest of the league goes, um, you know, I'll make a quick shout out to my Mets who have just been abysmal. In the past week, they had 4 games where they were up by like 3 runs or better, and like blew it in the 8th or 9th inning. Just aggravating. I can't say many times I went to bed with them with like a lead to wake up to the next morning of like how did they lose? It's like,
Yeah, but I find that happens more often in baseball than it does pretty much anywhere else.
yeah,
Um,
it's just very frustrating.
Frustrating, I'm sure.
And it's like it's one of those things like Edwin Diaz, the closer for the Mets, is not been the same since his injury. The closer role is tough. It's one of the most mental positions in baseball, and he's for sure kind of shook. And it's like for me, he got injured in the World Baseball Classic, like a non-sanctioned MLB thing. I'm not taking it like it's a separate discussion, but it's a shame when there's a lot of money on the line, and it's like the guys who get injured, messing around in the backyard, doing something
Yeah,
stupid. Now he was playing baseball. He got hurt celebrating. It's a whole other conversation which we've had. It's frustrating. Now we're kind of seeing some repercussions from that injury because he didn't play, basically last year at all, and I don't know, just very irritating.
and I mean, it's hard because in situations like that, you know, there's definitely stuff that can be done to like prevent it, but at the same time, um, you would hope that there's an amount of caution taken by a player. Um, Trying to think, there was a player that I want to say like broke their leg or something falling down the stairs because they stepped on their child's toy or something like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Probably
about.
it's probably longer than that at this point, but
Yeah, but something
um
like yeah,
but shit like that's gonna happen. You can't really prevent that, but if you're gonna go out like I don't know, playing a hard contact sport in the off season, don't fucking do that.
right. Um, but in quick summary, just kind of like a quick cliff notes. The Yankees lead the AL East with 37 wins, 18 losses. Baltimore, the young Starlets, the team that kind of broke through last year, is not far behind, a game and a half. That'll be exciting. It's one of those things that we kind of talked about. I wish the old schedule was set up because what a great race it would be at the end of the year to see Baltimore and the Yankees battling it out in those
Yeah.
series. The rest of the teams in that division are kind of all 9+ games back, but all kind of neck and neck. AL Central is Cleveland right now leading, Kansas City 2.5 games back. For me, as things stand, I think Cleveland will wrap that division up, barring something ridiculous. Cleveland does, they're in all their games. They're not blowing up the stat sheet with, 10-run games and whatnot, but they got a good starting pitching, and they have a great closer in Class A who's just been very dominant. I think want to say he has a less than 1 ERA, and guy just throws gas.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And they're winning those games, be it 3-2, 4-3, 4-2, like a win's a win. They're winning the close games. And I just think, for me, the competition in the AL Central is not good enough to contend. AL West is very interesting. All those teams are very equal on paper. Seattle, very much like Baltimore, the young team that kind of broke through in the past 2 years, and definitely an exciting team, a team you want to root for because they've struggled so hard for years and years. You like to see them kind of continue with that success. On their heels is Texas and Houston, respectively, 3.5 games back. It's a tough diagnosis because the year is still early. You know, we can't really put we can't really sink your teeth into the year until June is kind of wrapped up. I feel like by the time June is wrapping up, you know what you're going to get out of your team.
Right.
Yeah, sure, there's surprises, but like by June, there's been enough baseball play that okay, we get it. We know what this team is.
Surprised anymore.
Right. But that has potential to be in a pretty exciting division. Aforementioned the NL East, Philadelphia leads that with 38 wins, 17 losses. Atlanta is 6 games behind. Atlanta's been interesting. They've lost a couple heartbreaking games.
As well as a large amount of players.
Yeah. You know, they took a couple losses to Seattle. They got swept a couple times, but at sitting 6 games back, that's a team that doesn't need to panic.
No.
You know, they have the firepower, to find themselves in a wild card spot. So, Braves fans, no need to worry. You know, the baseball gods smile upon you guys for some reason. So, don't shed a tear.
That doesn't last forever. Remember.
Yeah, right. Moving on to the NL Central, another division that's kind of mirroring the AL West, where everything is respectively close. You know, the Reds sit at 7-5 games back from Milwaukee, who's the division leader. This is an interesting division for me. You know, Pittsburgh started off so hot. That's a team that was, you know, for me, easy to sleep on. Still sort of is. But they came out swinging. They've definitely come back to earth a little bit. But it's the Milwaukee Brewers show. You know, that's unfortunately the Cardinals are in a weird spot where it's like there's a lot of age on that team, but
yeah, and it's starting to show a little bit.
But at the same token, you know, if that team can kind of like get some consistency out of a lineup, I think the pitching is good enough to, you know, contend. I think that team will find themselves in second place by the end of the year. The Cubs sit at 500, 27-27. I don't expect anything more of that. That team will be very painfully average.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the West, the Dodgers, that's the super team there with 33 wins. It's your classic. That's your division. That's your conference to lose. You know, don't be shocked if the Dodgers are the representatives for the NL and the World Series. Don't want to give them the crown just yet, but they're good.
So funny if they do nothing.
And you know that is a thing. You know, the super teams tend to struggle or not do it. But at the same token, like the Dodgers have kind of been that super team now for a few years, and they've represented the NL in the World Series. So they've kind of broke that mold. Now, they haven't really come away with a lot of wins, with only one win in maybe 4 or 5 appearances. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, you know, you're still playing for a championship at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that means something.
In the same token, we've seen plenty of times where, while a super team may mesh together enough to, you know, be able to even make a dent in the playoffs, there are some times where it just doesn't gel together. And you can talk about that for, I mean, pretty much any any league. You can look back to the Nets from a couple of years ago in the NBA. You can look to the Eagles super team in the NFL. You can look to, I mean, the Yankees tried to put together a pretty strong. I don't know if I want to call it a super team because I don't think they ever really achieved a level like the Dodgers have. But they tried putting like a bunch of power together, and I think it took them to the championship series, but never got them to the World Series.
Yeah. And I mean, the Yankees have faced their injury woes as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of, in summary. I mean, I will make one more quick note about the NL West. The Diamondbacks, who represented the NL last year, are below 500 right now. Kind of not doing too much. I mean, that's a great example of a team that just taking advantage when the time was right. Played well enough to to make it to the playoffs. Team got hot, but sometimes it just doesn't translate. It's just one of those things. Is that the teams that get hot are the ones that end up playing in World Series and Super Bowls and finals and Stanley Cups.
Yep.
The Padres will, in my opinion, that team will not work. They are. They're attempting to be a super team, but they got a bunch of players that don't mesh. There's not great chemistry there,
Uh-huh.
and they're just burning money. And I think the GM there, whose name escapes me, I think his time in that role is going to be closing quick, depending on how things wrap up this year for them.
You'd love to see it. So funny.
But yeah, that's basically baseball right now. It's the coming up on the dog days of early summer. A lot of baseball to go.
Yep. And I watch a lot of the Rich Eisen show.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like my go-to like sportscast for the day if I'm going to watch anything.
Mm-hmm.
Rich did a power rankings of the best sports month out of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and we're coming very close to the two like months that nothing really happens in, because NHL playoffs are about to be over. NBA playoffs, the finals start in I think 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
And NFL doesn't have anything happening until training camp, and that's not till late July. So the only thing on will be MLB,
Yeah.
and it's the middle of the MLB season, so almost nothing that happens aside from injuries
It's
means
really
a ton.
right. Not a lot of noteworthy stuff happening.
Right. I think I had this debate with Mock like a few months ago, but in the grand scheme of things, just with how many games there are, one or two games like lost in the middle of the season doesn't feel like as much of a like pressure point as losing them towards the end of the season, like once you start getting to September.
Right.
So pretty much anything that happens at this point in time over the next couple of months, once the playoffs really end, it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, like for me, and this is where you and I differ a little bit. Like, I could sit and watch a random baseball game, any team, at any point, and have some degree of interest in it, just because I like it. Like, I acknowledge the fact that there are periods of time in baseball that it is just agonizing, like. And you're sitting there, and it's like, oh my god, it's the third inning. I've already invested like an hour of my time in this, and it's 0-0 with one hit. Pitcher's thrown 49 pitches right now, and just like really, all the batters are just really working the count, and you're just sitting there, they're just grueling away. So I get it, and I would say that the advances that they've made, like with the pitch clock and this and that, I think that it has improved the game to casual fans and people just going to games for shits and giggles alike. And like the nice thing I will say about baseball is like it's a sport that like you can be paying attention to while not paying attention, and that's definitely something that even I do. Like I'll throw on the Mets and like during the when the Mets are pitching, like I'll be not giving my full attention if I'm playing on my phone or whatever, because like I don't need to see every single pitch.
Now,
You
see,
know.
that was going to be my question because I was having this debate with Bruce yesterday while we were at the cookout.
Mm-hmm.
Now he says he sits there and watches the entire game. I've been with him while baseball games went on TV, and he does not sit and watch the entire game. His phone's out, he's scrolling, he's watching. If there's like, he'll look up occasionally for a pitch,
Mm-hmm.
but the time he looks up is when the bat connects with the ball. Now, are you telling me that you'll sit there and you'll watch, while the pitcher's like warming up to throw a pitch or anything like that, that your focus is on the TV and your focus is not on your phone or something else distracting you?
For me, definitely not. And hello, Paul, by the way, who joins us. Like
Don't interrupt, Massey.
sorry, but like for me, like when I'm like in the early innings when the starter's in, I'll have somewhat focus on what he's doing. I kind of want to see how he's doing. And the Mets have had kind of a carousel of people in the starting rotation since the days of 2015. So I'll get a feel for like what's going on, and by the third inning or fourth inning, they'll have been through the lineup at least once, and then that's kind of when the Mets are on defense. Then my attention will definitely falter, and I'll be on my phone a little bit more because it's like, all right, I'm kind of just like I'll look up, but I'm listening more to the 2-1 pitch to whoever. So that for me is kind of like I can be watching a game and still only giving 60% attention to the game being on.
And I think that's where the only time that baseball struggles to compete with other sports is because in the other three of the four majors, something's always happening unless there's like a timeout or something going on. But if there's live action, it's constantly happening. There's no like pauses in between pitches and stuff like that. It's constantly on. Like watching the game right now. Ball is shot up, there's a foul, and they're going to go to the line, or there's a shot made and then they're passing it back to go back. NFL, you have it passed down, but then they're hurrying right back to the line and a hurry up offense, and they're running another play. You don't look away from that. You're paying attention to see, what everything is happening all the time.
Right.
I don't find with any of the other sports I'm on my phone nearly as much as I am with baseball time.
And like I said, I'm on my flip side though, like when the Mets are at bat or whoever, like if I'm watching a random game that I don't do that super often anymore, but if I'm watching a random game and I have like a rooting interest for one team, I'll pay much closer attention to the at bats than I do the pitching.
Sure, absolutely. But I still think that's just a stop and start sport has much bigger struggle at keeping the focus, especially one that goes on. And I will give them credit; they have trimmed it down with the pitch clock. But one that goes on as long as baseball does, where if it's a not strong defensive game, it can go on for a lot longer. Which again is more fun to watch because offense is being produced. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. Mr. Riddler, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well.
What are you drinking?
I'm not having anything now, but I did have 9 Budweisers over the course of the day.
Nice.
Very nice. What's your toast of excellence?
Did you guys do the sip of silence?
We did.
Huh?
We did, yes.
All right. My toast of excellence is to this like ridiculous stat that I saw that I feel like it just doesn't sound like it'd be real. But I mean, there's an article published with like tons of research on it that I read. In 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to play a game of football on 6 different weekdays over the course of the season.
Huh.
They're going to play Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at some point over the course of 17 games. And this will be the first time that a major sports franchise across the 4 major American sports has played on 6 days of the week over the course of an entire season since 1927.
Wow.
I just find that so hard to believe that no baseball team has ever played every day of the week over the course of 162 games.
I mean, yeah.
Now that you say it, it's like, how could that be?
I don't understand how that could. I mean, like you just think of like traditional off days for most teams would be like Monday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Like the White Sox traditionally don't play on, like if they're going to take a day off during the week, it's going to be Thursday. They'll play a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series.
Yeah.
If they play a 4-game series, it's usually going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Would usually be what your 4-game series would be, and then they would take off like Monday or whatever. But like, I refuse to believe that that's truth. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But it's an interesting read. Or it was an interesting read. I tried to find the article again so that I could link it, but I had no such luck. But I don't know. I just find it hard to believe because I mean, let's just say Monday. Monday's probably the most common off day for MLB teams.
Yep.
If the 4th of July is on a Monday, everybody plays.
Right.
It just doesn't make, like the 4th of July is pretty much all the teams suit up on the 4th of July. Same thing with Memorial Day, Labor Day, they all play. I feel like that can't be true unless the thing is like the only thing I could think of is like the person who wrote the article along with the stat was poorly worded and like this is the first time an NFL team is doing it since 1927, but they said since the 1927 Yankees. So like if you're going to use that as a benchmark, why wouldn't you say the 1927 Green Bay Packers? Right.
Right.
So I don't know. I find it like very hard to believe that there hasn't been a baseball team that has played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Just 6 days. It only has to be 6, not even 7.
Yeah.
So, I think they worded it wrong, but if it's in fact true, cool stat.
Yeah.
So that's the best I got.
All right.
I missed the beginning of the conversation, but if I may chime in,
Please.
I think that what Massey said in a generality is true, but I think in terms of like the grand scheme of watching sports, I would say that I personally think that baseball and football are more close than you think in terms of time spent on phones at live sporting events.
Not while you're live at home on the couch watching.
Then I think it's even closer. And just the reason I say it is like because of like what you said, baseball is a stop and go sport. But what you don't have in baseball is 400 commercial breaks and like timeouts. Like yes, like
true.
there's a pitch, and it's thrown back to the pitcher. But I mean, realistically, if you're sitting down watching a game, especially today with the pitch clock, you're gonna get, I would say, probably 4 pitches, assuming there's no like hits, like actual base hits.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get 4 pitches in under a minute.
This is true. And I wasn't taking I wasn't taking commercials into consideration when I was talking about that.
Well, and I think I think time spent on the phone during the commercial shouldn't count, but I do think that there's trickle over into the start, like the rebroadcast of the game.
Yeah.
But I think that with football, again, especially in today's game, I think it's more close because today there's the average NFL fan. I wouldn't even say the average NFL fan. I would say probably like an NFL fan who's like a devoted fan of their team. I would say like level 6.5, put that as the benchmark out of 10, is tuning out more often on defensive possessions than they are on offensive possessions. Because offense is sexy now. Offense is where the magic is going to happen. I mean, you know, and rightfully so from an offensive standpoint, you're more likely to have an exciting play happen from the team with the ball on offense than from the team on defense in that same possession.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, hockey's hard, and NBA is somewhat hard, only because if you do look down at your phone and do something for 3 minutes and you look back up, like
the whole game is different.
I'm guilty of it, of looking down at my phone on a 12-point game, and I look back up what feels like 20 seconds later, and now it's a 2-point game, and there's like 10 seconds left in the quarter. With hockey, it's very hard to do because hockey is like has the longest stretches of no interrupted play. I would say from non-interrupted, I would say football would be second, then basketball, then baseball. In terms of interruptions in the play where there's not an actual thing going on. But in terms of like interruptions to the game, I think basketball still might beat football. There's a lot of commercials in basketball.
There's one thing you haven't considered. None of your points fit my narrative, so they don't count.
That's fair. That's fair.
I knew Kendall would enjoy that.
I think the other part of it too, though, is that it depends on what kind of fan you are.
Yeah.
Like if something's going on, like if our group chat is blowing up and Kyle is trying to be active to it, Kyle is going to ignore every text that comes in while the pitcher's on the mound because Kyle was a pitcher. Kyle cares more about the pitching than he does about the hitting. He cares about the game in whole. He's a 10 out of 10 Phillies fan. But if he had to pick and choose, he would watch every pitch thrown by a Phillies pitcher than any at bat taken.
Yeah.
And I think the same, like, it's like offense. Like, I mean, like for me, if I have to step out of the room to go make lunch for Amelia or tend to something on the stove or use the bathroom, I'm going to step out of the room when the Bears are on offense, not when they're on defense, because I grew up from a team that it wasn't really exciting to watch offense. My DNA is that they're gonna run short pass, run short pass, run short pass, kick a field goal or a touchdown. Whereas on defense, there's 3 or 4 dudes that are capable of getting there at any time. Now, this narrative has obviously switched recently, but I think a lot of it too goes into what kind of fan you are.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about that makes that more difficult for hockey and basketball is you can't be a fan of one or the other because they both happen just back and forth.
Right. It's just constant.
Right. There's never an instance where, and I know how exciting would this be if they could ever figure out a way to do this, but there's never going to be an instance where Jalen Johnson's going to pick off Jared Goff and then immediately lateral it to Caleb Williams, who runs onto the field to throw a deep ball to DJ Moore.
Could you imagine watching that?
I'd watch it.
Here comes an entire line change during a play.
Yeah.
Be pretty funny.
A lot of room for injury.
Would you guys be opposed to the NFL implementing a rule? Assuming let's say we set an official. Let's say we add 2 officials to the game, and their jobs are just to stand on the sidelines and watch for this thing. Would you be opposed to, it can at the beginning of a play? It can't happen, while the snap is happening because it would be a false start or whatever on offense, things like that. But while a play is happening, a player can vacate the field and have basically like a line change in hockey, So a cornerback can run off the field if he gets like beat at the line, and once he clears the field, another corner deeper down on the bench can run out to prevent
It'd be
the big
so
pass.
funny.
I think I actually would be in on that, because that would be like a whole new strategy.
I want to see it for the UFL. I don't want to see it in the NFL, but I would absolutely want to see it in the UFL.
Because I saw somebody who proposed some things in it where like what you could do, like what you could do to keep it somewhat fair would be like you either limit, like, you know, there's like a yardage thing, because it's like, because in hockey you have the length of your bench.
Right.
You can't go over the glass into the opponent's bench and hop off down that side of the ice. So you would either have to shrink it so that it's like you can only do that within the first 15 yards of play from line of scrimmage, 15 yards out, or you can only do it in between the 30s. Another guy proposed that you can do it, but on defense, or on defense or offense, whatever happens, it becomes a dead ball. So from like an offensive standpoint, let's say Cooper Kupp's sitting out of play and Puka gets jammed at the line and slips. So he immediately just runs right at it, like gets up and just goes right out of bounds. And Cooper Kupp comes in and goes up the field and catches a 45-yard pass from Stafford.
Well, so there's a very easy way to abuse that.
What?
Is on the snap, run out of bounds and have somebody 50 yards upfield just run right back in.
Well, so that's the thing. So that's what he's saying. Like you would limit the yardage that you can do it in. You can only do it, maybe you only do it in a 15-yard span. So if you come in from out of bounds, 16 yards from the line of scrimmage, it's a flag. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't work. And I mean, for anybody that says that that's too complicated, pass interference. That's my argument.
Right.
So,
but pass interference is always wrong.
But pass interference is a judgment call that drastically changes the outcome of at least 5 games a season.
Oh yeah,
it's a rule that's not a rule. It's a how are you feeling today as a ref, and it's something that pass interference is a rule that, for as detrimental as it is to the offense or to the defense, is a rule that should have actual hard lingo to it, which it does not have. When you use terms like excessive or unnecessary or inhibiting, those are all judgmental words.
Yeah.
Excessive to you is different than excessive to me, which I know you guys know that. I'm just saying. But like something along those lines. But like one argument that I thought was like pretty interesting was he said, I think that there should be like this person who wrote the comment, I think there should be like a yardage cap on it somewhere where like it's either from the line of scrimmage up to a certain point. You can't enter the field 30 yards down the field immediately. Because then obviously that makes things completely out of whack. But what he implemented was whatever happens, it's a dead ball. So if Puka were to like get jammed and then just run out of bounds and Cooper Kupp runs in 15 yards down the field, catches a ball right off the thing because Stafford's looking for it, or it's a designed play.
Yeah.
He catches the ball, there's no one near him, and he runs 45 yards for a touchdown. Obviously, that's going to get abused all the time.
Right.
So what he proposed was the minute Cooper Kupp catches the ball, the play's dead there. It's like he gives if you touch the ball when you're the guy that comes in, the minute you touch it, it's a dead play. You've given yourself up. So it would be interesting because it would result in a lot more first downs, obviously, but it wouldn't result in these 45-yard unfair touchdowns when you're trying to run a safety blitz or something like that.
Right.
It's an interesting, like, I think it's something that would never happen, obviously, but it's an interesting like thing to think about.
Certainly,
because that's one thing that the NFL is going to, in my opinion, need to do in the next 15 years is they're going to have to come up with something in a positive way that refreshes the game. Because the running quarterback exciting right now, but it's not something we've never seen before. It's something we've never seen before in terms of the quant arguably, we've still haven't seen anybody do it better than the guy who. There can be an argument made for that. I mean, I know some people have broken certain records, but in terms is would be considered better.
Nobody's achieved the notoriety for their rushing the way he has.
Rodgers and Justin Herbert, and we already have our new wave of like the quote unquote, not strictly a pocket passer, but he's a pass first guy, and he makes his nose. Patrick Mahomes would tell you, yeah, he'd rather stay in between the tackles and set his feet and drill 135 yards down the field.
Oh yeah,
right. But like the NFL is going to need to do something up the game, in my opinion, in the next 15 years, because what it's not going to do safety.
Mm-hmm.
We're now that we're seeing the Guardian caps becoming a addition to the uniform,
I don't think it'll ever become mandatory, but
player that voluntarily wears it ever getting a concussion, and concussion numbers not going down across the league otherwise.
Yeah, but then you're going to start to see issues that arise because these players are using it. Like they may not be getting concussions, but they're more likely to get neck injuries or such and such. So that's why I don't ever think it'll be mandatory.
There's all kinds of things that are becoming more and more dulling of the game and creating more stoppages. I think the NFL is going to have, at some point, they're going to have to do something to liven it up a bit. Maybe this new kickoff rule will be that. Who knows? That kickoff rule has been very successful and exciting in the other league that it's been in. I think that, to this day, I will die on the hill of the extra point rule being a giant joke. I think it's completely stupid that you have a 35-yard field goal for 1 point, but one bad move by the defense makes it a 1 yard rushing for 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. That's another thing I think needs to change. And if there's a list of things I would change if I became commissioner.
Yeah.
And nothing like dramatic, just little things. Like, for example, a serious defensive penalty, something like the jumping the line thing where you catapult on a player.
Yeah,
that's a player safety thing.
Yep.
Or like face masks or defensive holds on fakes and things like that. Like, those are egregious penalties that you use as a tool to not let up something big happening.
Yes. So
those I'm fine with, resulting in half the distance to the goal if you change it to a 2-point conversion. But something like jumping off sides on a kickoff, like that to me, that should be an automatic added to the kickoff.
Yeah.
If you're a defensive player and you jump off sides trying to guess the snap count to block the extra point and you misjudge it, that is, I think what I'm trying to say actually is the NFL needs to come up with a way to not completely, but drastically close the gap between the discrepancies on how much defenses are penalized versus offenses.
Yes, I would agree.
They definitely seem like
I stand by it to the end of time. An offensive player commits a pass interference call, it's a 15-yard penalty, and it's a replay of down. A defensive player does it, it's a 15-yard penalty and fresh downs. Or it advances the ball X amount up. If a defender commits a pass interference call for 50 yards and the offense gets free 50 yards, if the offense does it, they should have to go back 50 yards.
Yeah, I think the NFL has some of the most arbitrary rules. There's just such a disconnect from offense to defense out of any sport of the major four. It's just so ridiculous.
What is it? The only penalty that's the same for both are false starts / offsides encroachments.
Yep.
Those are 5 yards and you replay the down. An offensive player holds, it's 10 yards and you replay the down. A defensive player does it, it's an automatic first down. How does that make any sense?
No.
It makes no sense at all. What is it? Illegal forward pass Is that the only one that's a loss of down or an intentional grounding? Those are a loss of downs, right?
Yes.
That's it. That's it. But the defense loses downs all the time.
Yeah.
If it's 3rd and 1 and the offense and the right tackle holds on a fucking O gap, they go back 10 yards and now it's 3rd and 11. If it's 3rd and 1 and the defensive guy holds on an outside run to try to stop the guy from creating the gap, it's an automatic first down plus 10 yards. That doesn't make any sense.
And it's hard because the NFL prefers to have their offense going, so they're not going to ever make the adjustments for it.
I totally get it. But it's just that it makes it really makes the discrepancy makes the game longer than it needs to be. I know that we've been doing the 1 o'clock, 4:30, the 1 p.m., 4:30 p.m. thing, Eastern Standard Time, for a long time, and it's still working. Like, I don't mean longer in terms of time. I mean longer in terms of just agonizing.
Yeah.
Because one thing that is super obnoxious is the amount of time that is picked off of an NFL clock where there is nothing happening.
Right.
Because I mean, you figure if you have a team doing the 4-minute drill up by 3 and they're going down the field, they're running one play every 40 seconds.
Yeah. Watch them kind of peruse up to the line.
Right. If the other team has no timeouts on a 4-minute drill, you're gonna see 2 full minutes of real time of maybe 4 rushing yards.
And as a fan, it's the worst when you're on the losing side of that. You're like, oh, damn it.
I can't watch it personally. Offense or winning or losing, I can't. I'm just like, oh God.
It's a time to be doing anything but this.
Yes, 100%.
Like here's the thing. I totally get the whole you never know what could happen. On defense you could hope for a stupid handoff and it's a turnover. On offense you could hope for a running back hits a random gap and goes off for the touchdown or whatever. I totally get. But if I'm a head coach and that's my plan is just to run 3 fucking runs right up the middle into a fucking stacked 7-man box just to milk clock, just fucking take 3 knees and punt.
Yeah.
There's a lot less risk of anything going wrong if you knee because, nothing can go wrong if you kneel.
Right.
Unless you accidentally run out the clock on the half because you're Kirk Cousins. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an isolated incident.
Still very funny.
But even still, though, the mistake there was clock management. That's the quarterback and the head coach. But, he's not going to fumble the ball.
This is true. It's still very funny to me, though.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, Kirk O'Bangs.
Kirk O'Bangs.
Ugh.
But yeah, I agree with the idea that they're going to have to make some changes, and I like the changes that they're looking to make with the kickoff. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I certainly think it's going to lead to at least some increase in scoring on kickoffs and everything like that. And because of that, I think it'll be widely accepted as something positive by most people. But yeah. That's what I got.
Hashtag make the kickoff relevant again.
Indeed.
I have a quick question.
No.
While we're on the football topic, I'd like to do one of those. Which player would you rather have?
This should be good.
All right. Would you prefer me to go down all the stats for player A together first and then go to player B, or go back and forth?
Back and forth.
Yeah.
All right. Which player would you rather have? Player A has a overall career record of 165, 81, and 1.
This is NFL, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Player B has a career overall record of 148, 75, and 1.
Okay.
Player A has a completion percentage career for 64.4. Player B, 65.3. Player A has 64,088 passing yards. Player B has 59,055. Player A has 418 touchdowns to player B's 475. Player A has 211 interceptions to player B's 105. Player A has 1,373 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns compared to player B's 34, 66, and 35 touchdowns. Player A has won no individual awards. Player B has a total of 10, counting All-Pros, MVPs, and Super Bowl MVPs. Player A has been to 3 Super Bowls. Player B has been to 1. Player A has 13 playoff wins to player B's 12. Player A has 41 career fourth quarter comebacks for wins. Player B has 21. And player A has eclipsed the 500-yard mark in his career in a game, whereas player B has not. And player A has 2 Super Bowls versus player B's 1. And they have played
Super Bowl victories versus
Super Bowl victories. Two for player A, 1 for player B. And they both played the exact same amount of seasons up to this point.
Are they both active?
No. So would you rather have player A or player B, and why?
And
then at the end, after you give your reasonings, you guys can guess if you want. But give your reasonings first.
How many Super Bowls has player A been to?
Player A has been to 3. Player B has been to 1.
And player A has 2. Player B has 1.
Correct. So I'll just do kind of a quick recap on the stats I read. So player A has a better record, more yards, more Super Bowls, and more fourth quarter comebacks, more Super Bowl appearances, more Super Bowl wins, and just a high, a bigger single game passing record, highest amount of yards thrown for in a game in a career. Player B has a slightly higher completion percentage, less than 1%. More touchdowns, less interceptions, more rushing yards, more rushing touchdowns, and more individual accolades in terms of how you would measure an individual accolade. Obviously, nobody's winning MVP without their teammates, but you know what I mean.
Right.
I think I know who both of these players are.
I'm sure you do. You're a sick individual.
I think I'm going player A, and I think you included player A had more comeback drives, correct?
Yeah, 41 fourth quarter comebacks for wins versus 21.
Yeah, I think between that, because that's an exciting aspect of a player, and the Super Bowl wins, and pretty, decent passing numbers, and touchdowns included. I like player A.
I think I'm also going with player A, but can I ask you a question?
You can after I say this thing.
Okay.
So for me, the whole thing about doing these is just that, obviously, when the names are revealed, you may stick to what you picked, and this is in any situation, or you might change your answer because you might think player B is better than player A for intangible reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But like the thing is the one thing that when things are all said and done, like you, and the reason I thought this would be something like this is always interesting is I always think of the LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate, and then the reason that debate will never be settled is because there's a whole generation of NBA fans that they can watch the film all they want, but when you don't see it live and you didn't really like watch it happen, like when you didn't watch it when it was like real with like Michael Jordan, for example, you can't really. There's no stat for intangible things. There's no stat for hunger to win. There's no stat for drive and determination. There's no stat for any of that type of stuff. But there are numbers for actual things, and so you tend to go off those things. So to the average NBA fan, and rightfully so, if you didn't have a chance to watch Michael Jordan play, you would never pick Michael Jordan to be the GOAT because LeBron has passed all of his things.
Right.
Despite playing, 8 more seasons than him at this point or whatever it is. But that's a moot point because you can't falter somebody for being healthy, for beating records.
Lost in the finals.
Huh?
Jordan never lost in the finals.
That's true. Jordan never did lose in the finals. So but LeBron's got more points on less shots, more assists, more blocks, more
Jordan
rebounds.
Went back to back twice.
Huh?
Jordan went back to back twice.
LeBron went to 7 straight finals.
I mean, Jordan probably would have done that if he didn't retire midway through.
Can't prove that.
I said probably.
Probablys are, LeBron probably would have the same amount of rings as Michael Jordan if he had competent teammates for 2 of those finals runs.
This is also fair.
And again, I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying, when you have to go off numbers,
yeah,
it forces you to pick based off numbers.
Yeah.
So, Massey, you're picking player A for what reason? And what was the reason? What was the question?
I mean, I'm going based off pretty much the same reason that Kendall did. Number one, you have more Super Bowls. That alone should really break any kind of question that anybody has. Number two, the career passing yards over 500 per 500 in a game. What did you say he did it? How many times?
He only did it once, but player B never did it.
That alone just goes to show a prolific passer. Obviously, the fact that they went to 3 Super Bowls shows that they were able to get there pretty consistently. And I mean, overall, I don't know. My question is, did these 2 players ever play head-to-head in the Super Bowl?
Head-to-head in the Super Bowl? Yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident in who they are then.
Okay, go ahead.
Kendall, you want to take a guess?
Is player A Ben Roethlisberger?
Yep.
Player B, I don't know. Initially, I wanted to say Drew Brees, but then I heard all Drew Brees has like a billion stats, so I feel like it's not him. Though he has the 1 Super Bowl, and obviously now knowing they played against each other, then is it Rodgers?
Yep.
Huh.
So I thought this was interesting only because I think Ben is kind of one of those unsung hero type of quarterback greats. I don't think many people would pick Ben Roethlisberger, excluding all Steelers and Packers fans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think many people would pick Ben to be a better career quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is more than likely going to, break that yarding record just this year because he's only chasing by like 4,500. There's a real chance he can do it this year.
Unless he tears his other Achilles.
Right, yeah.
No, but Paul, you're right. So I feel like if you were just like casually break out those two names in a conversation without like numbers to back it, I think the majority of people would just say Rodgers just because.
Yeah.
I still think that Aaron Rodgers is overall a more talented quarterback than Ben, in terms of ability. But I think overall Ben was so far the better quarterback.
Right. I mean, I think because Rodgers has the one Super Bowl, if he eclipses him in all the stat yards, the fourth quarter comebacks and the 500-yard games, those are nice and they're fun stats. But like the raw, just statistical that measurement sticks, like he's going to own all of those. He's probably, assuming he plays another 2 years, it's a wrap on the yards, no problem. I would like to say if Mike Mock ever does listen to this, because I was asking him this today while I was at the secret hangout family party. His question was, what would the measurement stick be though in terms of like attempts and completions and attempts? Because he's like he goes, I can't imagine that Ben doesn't have like 1,000 more attempts than him because Ben just threw the ball all the time.
Yeah,
and Mike Mock's a hater of Ben Roethlisberger. We know that. So just for that little narrative, Ben has 800 more attempts than Aaron Rodgers, give or take.
That's wild.
Both of them having played 18 seasons, but he also has 400 more completions. So, that's something to take into consideration that, like, yes, nobody wants a 50% passer, but, on the 800 more attempts, it's not like it's not like Aaron Rodgers has more completions on less attempts.
Right.
He's got less completions on less attempts.
100 more. That's wild.
Yeah, because I thought it was interesting just because past last year, he's technically only got 18 seasons of quarterback play under his belt because he didn't play last year.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Yeah, it is interesting.
That was a good one.
So shut up, Kendall.
Sorry.
Rude.
Should be. You should be.
Good for him. Good for this family.
What?
Good for all of us.
Why do I recognize that?
That's Family Guy nonsense.
Okay.
I'd be curious to do a deeper dive on their careers, like side by side, just for like, because like something too, a stat that wasn't included in the graphic that I saw was like, I'd be curious to see like what playoff appearances are at after 18 years, because like, did Ben miss the playoffs more than 4 times in 18 years? You figured he finished 500 or better every year.
Yeah. See, it's a good question.
I want to look it up.
I want to say potentially yes. Because I remember his first 2 seasons he went to the playoffs. The following year he didn't.
When did he retire?
2021?
Yes. So
He came in. Okay, so he started in 2004, right?
Yes.
So they went 2004, 2005. They missed 2006. They missed 2009. Oh, so actually, he missed quite a lot of playoffs, actually. He missed 2012, 2013, 2018, and 2019. So he missed 6 out of 18, actually. So he only made it 66% of the time, which I say only, but...
No, pretty fucking good.
Let's see. And then Packers playoff history. Because Rodgers has only been a Jet for the 1 year that he missed, right?
Yes.
So Rodgers, and he came in 2007?
07.
Well, when did he start?
Not till 09 or 2010.
2010 was the year they won the Super Bowl. So he played
Probably 09 then.
Okay, so 09, then it would have been 1, 2, 3,
Let's
4,
see.
5, 6,
When
7,
did
8.
Aaron?
So he only missed 2 as a Packer.
Aaron Rodgers.
So Aaron Rodgers should have made the playoffs 16 times.
Rodgers became the quarterback starter in 2008.
Okay, so then he missed 3 times. He missed in 08. So it's just kind of, it's interesting.
It's certainly
But
a fun
But
question.
something I think that is interesting too, because if you're going to go down that rabbit hole and look at how many times they made the playoffs, I think what's further is you have to look at championship games. Aaron Rodgers has played in 2. The year they won the Super Bowl, and then the year that they lost to the Atlanta Falcons.
Niners. Didn't they lose to the championship game to the Niners too? The year the first time the Niners lost to the Chiefs?
When was that? What year was that?
God, my brain.
So we won 2021.
Was it 2019?
Yes, 2019, because the Bucks won in 20.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm totally wrong because I was looking at 2s versus 3s. Sorry. So that I forgot about the wild cards thing. So okay, so he's been to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's been to 5 conference championships, and he's won 1. So he's 1-4 in the conference championships. Whereas Ben, when did we say Ben retired? 2020-ish?
2021.
So 1, 2, 3.
Ben Roethlisberger retired 2025. Yep.
So Ben Roethlisberger's also been to 5 conference championships, but won 3 of them.
I do think it can be said that Ben played with better weapons than Rodgers has his entire career. Granted, you still need to have the talent to utilize said weapons, but I don't think anybody could argue that Ben benefited.
I think it's a lot closer than you think.
I mean,
the reason I say is because if you take out the narrative of the whole, they haven't used a first-round pick on an offensive weapon in X amount of years, like Antonio Brown is by far and away the best, or is he?
Of the receivers between the two quarterbacks throughout their careers, I would say probably, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's Devontae Adams is not that far away.
Yeah, it's a close comparison.
Know. If Antonio Brown didn't lose his fucking mind, we'd be talking about him for the Hall of Fame probably. I don't know that we're talking about that for Devontae Adams yet.
100% agree, but I'm just saying the gap between Antonio Brown as a Steeler and Devontae Adams as a Packer, I believe it goes to Antonio Brown because he was doing some insane shit, but Devontae Adams is no slouch.
No.
I mean, Mike Wallace had a pretty good stint.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Juju Smith-Schuster was one and done.
Yep. You had Hines Ward
for 2 years.
Who's the other wide receiver that I'm forgetting during the Super Bowl against the Cardinals?
Santonio Holmes. And then you have again you have to look at their body of work just as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah.
And then you go to the flip side. Now again, you're looking at overall grand scheme of things, but like Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver.
A lot of these players who did nothing once they left.
But none of the guys you named in Pittsburgh uniforms did anything when they left Pittsburgh. The only Pittsburgh receiver I can think of during the Ben Roethlisberger era that actually was better when he left the Steelers was Emmanuel Sanders.
That's who I was just going to say too.
I think that's the only one. And then when you look at the tight end spot, you got Pat Freiermuth and fucking Heath Miller, which Heath Miller was a good tight end, but I mean he wasn't a barn burner. And it's the same thing for the Packers. Like they had fucking Jermichael Finley, who wasn't a top 5 tight end, but he caught touchdowns and he picked up big third downs. I'm just like I think the edge would go to the Steelers, especially because they have more household names. But I think it's a lot closer than you think.
Yeah, I can see it being.
Because, like Ben Roethlisberger had Jerome Bettis and Hines Ward, but he only had those guys for 2 years. He did not have prime either of them.
No.
Let's see. Packers all-time leading receivers. And then let's go to a new tab and do Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the thing that you can really say, kind of piggybacking off what you said, is yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers might have had more talent. Aaron Rodgers probably made more of his talent. Like the way you would look at so let's see. Antonio Brown in his 8 years as a Pittsburgh Steelers had, Jesus Christ, yards.
Wild.
Crazy. He's actually way better than fucking
Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Devontae Adams is he also played about 3 less years, but so Donald Driver played for about 5 years with Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams. Jordy Nelson has 8,000 career yards, and that's all, I believe, as a Aaron Rodgers guy. Oh, I forgot about Greg Jennings at 6,500 yards. Randall Cobb, 500 yards. James Jones had 5,000 yards. Jermichael Finley had 2,800. And then you go to the Pittsburgh Steelers side, you had Antonio Brown for 11,000, which is a big one, obviously. And then Heath Miller at 6,500. And then the next highest guy that Ben played with was Deontay Johnson at 4,300. Mike Wallace at 4,000. Plaxico at 4,000. Juju at 3,800. Santonio at 3,800. So I think it's a lot more even than you'd think.
It's fair.
It's a good comparison.
No, it's not. Yes, it is, Paul.
Kendall, how would you feel if I told you that Franco Harris had 25 more career receiving yards than Antoine Randall?
I would actually find that pretty hard to believe.
He's incorrectly, but he's just curious what you would think.
I mean, it would be pretty incredible if that was the fact. Like,
the second one's not true. It's like he's like 40 short,
but still pretty close. That's one reception.
Ben Roethlisberger is actually the last guy on the list with a career. He has the lowest career receiving total of anybody who's ever caught a pass for a Pittsburgh Steeler. He has 2 receptions on 2 targets for minus 12 total yards.
Minus 12 yards.
Yeah, Marquise Pouncey's 1 for 1 for no yards.
So that's a bummer stat. It means your ball is deflected, you catch it, and then basically just are like sacked for minus 12 yards.
Yeah. Who was the because who was the gap guy? Like who were all the fill-in guys for the Pittsburgh teams? You had what? You had for running backs. You had the bus, and then that went right into Rashard Mendenhall.
No, we had Willie Parker.
Oh, that's right, Willie Parker, then Rashard Mendenhall.
Yep.
And then it wasn't Le'Veon Bell after that, was it?
It kind of was. So the Steelers had a lot of like weird guys who were like backups who had like extended roles. Like Mewelde Moore had like a decent amount of play time. Then D'Angelo Williams had a decent amount of play time. There was like my boy Roosevelt Nix had like a surprising amount of play time. But basically after Mendenhall, like Bell was kind of like the next guy.
Yeah. Because then before Aaron Jones, it was Eddie Lacy. I mean, there was like that 2 or 3 year stint where they did like Jamal Williams and Ty Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that, it was kind of like Oh no, they had Ryan Grant. I remember him.
Remember Ryan Grant? I don't know how long he played for though. Like he was Brett Favre era, wasn't he?
No, he was no. Ryan Grant was like Ryan Grant was like right before fucking Eddie Lacy. He was like 2008 to 2012.
You're right. I'm confusing him with it was Amon Green was the guy's name.
Yeah, Amon Green was right before Rodgers.
Yeah, it's that both teams like they have very similar arcs for like the personnel and kind of like the success rate.
Yeah.
But we can both agree that the Packers suck, and I hate them.
Well, what's funny for me is the Packers a team that is just as historic as the Chicago Bears. I feel like you can't really name like a lot of like all-time great running backs for that team.
No, not really. They that's definitely like an overshadowed part of their like the team success. Like it's always been the focus on the quarterback and the receivers.
Yeah. Is Aaron Jones their all-time leading rusher?
I can't believe that that's the case, but it might be.
He's third.
No, I got it.
Amon Green is first.
That's who I was thinking. I couldn't think of his name.
And like
Amon Green and Jim Taylor. But again, I mean, like these are all guys like the average fan wouldn't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is fucking 10th. AJ Dillon is 17th.
It's one of those things. Like I mean, like you said, like it's a franchise that's super historic, but that is definitely not like an impressive, like great.
I mean, for the Bears, from the Bears standpoint, I guess it's not that much better. I mean, you have the guy that might be considered the greatest running back of all time in Gale Sayers. So, I mean,
well, see, the Bears have like at least two guys in a conversation. The Packers don't have. I mean, Jim Taylor, maybe. Like I mean, the Bears have it all over. Like between Walter Payton and Gale Sayers, like those are like you talk to like NFL like big wigs, like those guys are on their list. I can't really think of any Packers that would be on their list.
Remember 83-22.
Okay.
All right, what was the number? 83-22?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so the second rusher in Bears history is Matt Forte. He's got more yards than the all-time leader for Packers.
It's insane.
And
then Walter Payton has 16,000.
That'd be a fun segment to do one time. Would be to go through and just see like what each team is like elite at drafting. Like Bears would probably be running backs and middle linebackers.
Yep.
Rams would probably be running backs and I don't know, something else. Probably safeties if I had to think about it really quickly, but it'll probably be something else.
I mean, for the Rams, I feel like I would give it to like fucking receivers and offensive linemen.
I mean, we have Orlando Pace as a legendary lineman that we drafted. Who else?
Did you guys draft Whitworth?
Bengals did.
He was a Bengal for 10 years before he came to us.
I still think your track record with receivers is better than your track record with running backs.
I mean, Dickerson, Gurley. I'm sorry, I'm watching something.
But like on the flip side, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
Puka Nacua.
Puka.
Stedman Bailey. Chris Givens.
Name some more greats.
But even what was the other fucking dude? What was the guy in like the mid 2010-11 era? You guys had a receiver that was
Ricky Prohl.
Decent. Huh?
Ricky Prohl.
Not him.
I don't think that's what I'm thinking about.
No, it's not. Good name though, Mass. That guy lost the Super Bowl 3 years in a row.
Oh, yeah, you guys. Let's see here.
I'm trying to think. 2010, 2011. Who would have been like the number one?
Danny Amendola.
God, that can't be true, is it?
It was our number one while I was watching for a while.
That's brutal.
Guy won a ring though.
True.
Did he only win one? I thought he won two.
I don't think so. I think he beat Atlanta and lost to the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's probably the case.
I don't think Amendola was on the Seahawks team, or like the team that beat the Seahawks.
Let's find out.
I mean, regardless, he was like Edelman's understudy, so it's like it's a moot point.
I tell you, it's
got
got to be
a fantastic career for being an undrafted receiver.
It's got to be a real fucking bummer to look at all the receivers that have that Tom Brady has elevated over the course of their careers, and it's got to be a real bummer to be Wes Welker and be the only one that doesn't have a ring.
Yeah, that sucks.
And then not only that,
but
then go to Denver and lose again.
Yeah.
Amendola was on the Seahawks, or on the Patriots for the Seahawks Super Bowl, so he has 2 rings.
Amendola was?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So what's he played in 4 Super Bowls? Or 3 Super Bowls?
He played with.
Was he on the Rams the year you guys lost to the Patriots?
No, he didn't even get picked up by a team until 2008. He didn't start for us until 2009. That was the first year as a starter for him.
I'm talking about the one where the Super Bowl most recently.
Oh, sorry.
I know he wasn't on the 2001 Super Bowl.
No, because he went to the Dolphins that year. So he's technically started for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. Any guesses? I just gave you 3 of them.
Yeah, and he's a fucking Raiders coach, which is annoying.
Is he?
Yeah.
Good for him.
He's the returners coach.
Hell of a career for a dude who was undrafted out of college.
Yeah, and then he played with Julian Edelman, who did it better.
Yeah.
Edelman was drafted, though.
Huh?
Edelman was drafted, though.
I thought Edelman was undrafted.
Nope, drafted in the 7th round out of Kent State.
Yeah, still not as good.
Want to make sure that I'm not being a fucking.
Yeah, he was drafted in the 7th round. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was undrafted for some reason. Who's the receiver I'm thinking of that was undrafted?
Danny Amendola.
No, I'm not thinking of Danny. I'm never thinking of Danny Amendola.
Wayne Cravett.
No. Good guess though.
Thanks. Notable undrafted wide receivers. Wes Welker was undrafted.
Ooh, Angel Hernandez retired.
Did he really?
Yep. Oh, Adam Thielen.
Right.
Adam Thielen.
All right, toast it, boys. We're partying tonight.
Nah, I'm gonna miss that guy.
Nah, fuck him.
That's weird. Just middle of the season, you're like, yeah, I'm done.
Well, because he's had a lot more controversy this year than he's ever had.
Oh.
And he's already got into a fight with the MLB twice in the last 2 years.
Well, good.
Fuck him.
Adam Thielen
Nobody's not racist. You just suck.
Adam Thielen was the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah. Forgot Adam Thielen was undrafted.
Adam Thielen was drafted and won me a fantasy football championship.
Well, was drafted by you in fantasy. He was undrafted by the NFL at large.
If you say so. What I got to say to that?
All right.
There was something else I had on the docket. I know we're almost out of time, but there was something else I wanted to discuss. Forget what it was. Oh. I listened to this radio show because I'm a Chicago sports fan. I listened to the Cap and J Hood show. Huh?
You are?
Yeah, I mean sports hater, then fan.
All right.
1A,
I listened
1B.
to the Cap and J Hood show on ESPN 1000, and they had some people on, and they talk, these are, we're entering the dog days of summer, especially for, you're already there if you have bad basketball or NHL franchises like the Chicago area does. So right now you're just looking at baseball. The White Sox are terrible, and the Cubs have had a pretty abysmal May. So you kind of just talk about Caleb Williams a lot. And they had somebody on, and I thought it was interesting. I texted Kendall to remind me. He didn't.
Here.
So I think the most popular narrative that we have heard about not about Caleb Williams, but involving Caleb Williams since draft night is that Caleb Williams is walking into the best situation a rookie quarterback has ever walked into.
Correct.
So the question I arise to you is, and you can't use the statement, well, we have to see what happens, because it's about like what he's walking into right now, right?
Okay.
Like Caleb Williams is walking into a room with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze, and there's a very real chance that when he walks into that same room 12 months from now, Keenan Allen's not sitting there. But today, he's walking into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This NFC correspondent chimed in, and he said that he would change the narrative to that Caleb Williams is walking into the best situation a number 1 draft pick has ever walked into. But he firmly believes that J.J. McCarthy is walking into a better situation than Caleb Williams. And these were some points that were given. I would like you guys, we can discuss very briefly before we sign off. So he went down the line. He goes, there's no doubt that the Bears have arguably the best wide receiver room in the NFL at this moment in time. So he goes, but the Vikings have the best wide receiver in football.
I'd say they have 2 of the top 25 best receivers in football right now. But
what is it? They have the best wide receiver in football, and then their number 2 is probably going to be a top 10 wide receiver at some point in his career and is still on a rookie deal. The Vikings, he said that the Bears have a better running back room than the Minnesota Vikings, but the Minnesota Vikings have a better starting running back in Aaron Jones, who torches the Bears all the time. The Vikings have a better offensive line, as well as a veteran offensive line. They have these are his words. They have a better tight end in T.J. Hawkinson over Cole Kmet. They have a better head coach and a better front office, a more established coach and front office, and he thinks the defenses are par.
I would say,
I'm curious to what your guys' opinion on that would be.
I would say that I believe that Kevin O'Connell is a better offensive mind than Shane Waldron. And as such, I think that alone will help elevate. Because Waldron was a huge help with Goff while we had them together. I do think the defense is par. Without seeing what Rome Odunze is in the NFL, I'm hesitant to say definitively that they have the best wide receiver core. I mean, I think that Jordan Addison is going to be pretty close to a DJ Moore level at some point. I could be wrong. But Justin Jefferson also. And like you said, Aaron Jones. It's the players and the system that I think would allow a young quarterback to thrive in. That being said, I do think that you could really slot Caleb Williams into one of the 2 places, and the narrative would be the exact same.
Do you think that you have to add the level of prospect at the quarterback position into the situation they're walking into?
No, I don't.
What I mean by that is the situation that Caleb Williams is walking into includes what he is as a prospect versus what J.J. McCarthy is walking into with him as a prospect.
Like their overall talent levels as well.
Well, no,
like specifically as a player.
What they're prospected to be as a starting quarterback career-wise.
I think that you could put that into the equation, yes, and say that because Caleb Williams is expected to be better, it's probably better for him there than it is for him on the Vikings. But again, I still think if you put Williams in either of these spots, the narrative would be the exact same thing. This is the best thing that a rookie quarterback has ever walked into. I think that's more importantly the case because the Bears did it while they are technically not with their own pick, but still picking number 1 overall and having that come in, rather than the Vikings, who were originally picking. Anybody remember
12.
where they were picking 12? That was their pick. 12 was their pick. They didn't move up.
I don't think so.
Okay. Then a team that was picking 12th, especially a team that was picking 12th because their quarterback got injured at the midway point of the season. Because the Vikings are a better team than the 12th overall team in the league. Their record is not suggestive of the overall talent level on that team. I think the Bears picking at 9 is much more indicative of the overall talent level on the Bears at the point that they acquired that draft pick. I think that they're a much better team now, but I think relative to where the Bears were when they made this roster into what it's going to be for Caleb Williams, I think it's an overall best situation he could be walking into.
What about, Kendall, I'll let you can chime in on this one. So things that weren't mentioned, which I think deserve mentioning, are the outside factors, which are things like cap space and draft picks. So from a Chicago Bears standpoint, I think you look at it like now they only have 1 pick remaining, but they still have an extra pick coming in from the original move down from 1 to 9. Whereas the Vikings gave up some picks to acquire some future picks to acquire some ammo this year. And then you look at it from a cap space number 2, projected going into next year, you're looking at the Vikings having about $5 million more to play with, but that's without extending Justin Jefferson yet.
Right. Who will?
They have to do this year, right?
Do they have to? No. He still has 1 more year. This is his 4th year he's going into.
I guess, but like to piggyback,
he's an unrestricted free agent after next year.
If they don't pick up his 5th year contract or his 5th year.
No, whatever. He only signed a 4-year deal.
Because that's all rookies ever sign is a 4-year deal. They have the option or teams have a 5th year option that they can always elect for.
Oh, okay. So, but if they pick up the 5th year option,
then next year is the year that they need to do the deal.
So what would it be? Let's see. So, but that still adds to it, though.
Yes. And by a significant margin. I think it's like 20,000 or 20 million.
It's 20 million. It's 20 million, but it's 20 million that as of today is not on the books.
Correct. And it goes into next year.
It goes into 2025's cap.
Correct.
Right. So their cap now, instead of being 5 million over the Bears, they're 15 million behind.
Correct. Now, will they get a deal done this year? Yeah, I would expect that deal to be done in July at the very latest.
Which, I mean, obviously it changes. The number obviously changes because they'll probably. Well, I don't know. I feel like if you're the Vikings, if you're going to extend Justin Jefferson on a 4-year deal, 4-year mega bajillion-dollar deal, you're going to want to front load it, right? So that you can. Well, you have the extra cap space to play with now because you have Addison and McCarthy on rookie deals.
Yes and no.
Because you don't want to put yourself like, let's just say JJ McCarthy is the Messiah, and 4 years from now they need to start talking extensions with him, and 4 years from now they're paying Justin Jefferson $34 million a year because they backloaded it.
Just remember how much the cap space goes up every year. In
No,
4 years, $35 million won't be an issue for them.
Well, it won't be an issue for those two players. There's 51 other players on the team, and you got to
Sure.
figure at least 3 of them are going to demand over $20 million a year. Plus, I mean, if Justin Jefferson balls out for 4 more years and Jordan Addison turns out to be the next Justin Jefferson, you're going to pay both of them.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean,
I think the big hang up right now is there's a couple of deals that still have to get done for wide receivers. You're looking at Jamar Chase, you're looking at Justin Jefferson, and you're looking at CeeDee Lamb, all of who need new deals. And each one of them is going to reset the market. So it's a matter of who goes first.
Right. But I mean, you have to imagine you're going off
you really think they're going to reset the market, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if Jamar Chase goes first and then Justin Jefferson goes second, you think CeeDee Lamb's going to make more than Justin Jefferson?
I do. Maybe. It depends on how they structure the deal, because I don't think CD gets done this year. I don't think any Cowboy gets done this year. The problem is going to be when the year ends, they're going to want to extend CD, and then you're obviously looking at a much higher cap thing. That year, CD will be the one to reset the market. Now, if Dallas gets...
CeeDee Lamb's actually had a better career.
Yeah, and he was the best receiver in the NFL last year. I mean, in terms of stats, let's put that in clarity. But yeah, I mean, CD is gonna demand a shit ton of money, probably market-setting money. I think all 3 of them will. It's just a matter of...
I understand. I also don't agree that CeeDee Lamb was the best receiver in the NFL last year, though.
Statistically, he was.
No, he wasn't.
He had at least 3 categories he led in. They were...
Tyreek Hill had more yards, more touchdowns, less catches.
CeeDee
Lamb he had like 20 more catches than anybody else. But I think Tyreek Hill had him by like 50 or 60 yards at the end of the season, and I think Tyreek Hill caught 1 or 2 more touchdowns with him.
I'm going to have to double check that, because I could have sworn he led in at least a couple of those. Who won Offensive Player of the Year last year?
Me.
Man.
Christian McCaffrey? Had to have been, right?
It should have been. Yeah, Tyreek Hill in 2023, Tyreek Hill in 16 games had 119 catches for 1,799 yards and 13 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had in 17 games 135 receptions for 1,749 and 12 touchdowns.
Okay. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
I mean, he led receivers in receptions, targets, and fumbles.
Ooh,
Are those the big 3?
maybe.
Bingo.
I mean, Tyreek Hill also had more yards per reception and more first down catch. And more children born.
Important stat.
Yeah. All right. Here's your trivia question before we wrap up. the top 10 reception leaders for the 2023 season, 9 of them are receivers. 1 wasn't. Can you name the player?
What was the question?
Huh?
What was the question?
In 2023, out of the top 10 receptions leaders, 9 of the top 10 were receivers. 1 was not. I won't give you the position. I'm not giving you the position. You guys can have. You guys, I'll give you this. You can either do 7 guesses as a team or 3 guesses each.
What do you think of Mass?
But if you go as a team, the punishment is worse.
Paul, are we going to guess this?
Huh?
Are we going to guess this?
I mean, you're a sick individual, Mass, who slaves the NFL. So if anybody could, it's you. It's not easy though.
I know it's a tight end.
I'm not going to give you the position because there's only 2 other positions that could have it.
All right, left guard. Let's focus on that.
I know it's a tight end.
And he was 4th in receptions on the season.
Jesus Christ. All right. Give me a second while I think about this real quick.
So are we not teaming on this, Mass?
We can team on it. Think about it for a second with Paul and brainstorm it. He can't give you answers, obviously, but try and run something that's by him.
Did you see that thing I sent you about the Chicago people that are just taking cicadas and then soaking them in Malort and eating them?
I saw that. That was unbelievable. Like, it's so funny to me. Like, I mean, you know better than most, but like, we're just getting into the Malort game. Like, the people of Chicago have known about Malort for a very long time. It is like, the common man, if they were to taste it, they would never drink again. And then these people are taking bugs and making an additive.
I think it's awesome.
I mean, hey, more power to them. But I have a hard time getting down with that.
Hey, Kendall, just so you know, Rodney Williams of the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't catch either of his targets.
Really?
Yeah. I'm looking at like who had no receptions on the most targets. And it was this guy named James Proche from Cleveland. He had 5 targets and no receptions.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. The Bears actually have 3 different guys that were targeted and didn't catch anything all season.
What do you think the threshold is? Like, you're a guy who's sort of coming off, the bench for the most part. And like, to have like a look, what's the most amount of passes thrown your way for you not to catch to be like a real disappointment on the year? Is like 2 the threshold, or is it got to be greater?
So you're talking about like those guys, like a Travis Homer type of guy?
Yeah, like a guy who's just like, in general, they're probably going to play maybe 35 snaps on the year in mostly like either a blocking or I don't know, just kind of like an and other role. But there's a chance they're going to get a pass thrown your way.
I mean, I think in those situations, I don't think you can look at it from a year standpoint. I think you just look at it as a game standpoint. And I think it's just like if you get targeted in a game, it's a success. If you catch a ball, it's like a party.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you think about it. If you're only going to play, if you're one of those guys, you're a special teamer, so you're only getting out there for like a rotation. And in that, like, and realistically, in order to get out there, it's got to be like a 4 receiver set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like barring like injuries, obviously, but like if you're the 5th receiver on the depth chart, and your team traditionally runs 2 to 3 receiver sets all game long, you're probably not going to get in for more than 1 or 2 snaps.
Yeah, unless somebody gets hurt.
Right. So, like, I think if you're the 5th receiver on the team, I think if you get targeted, it's a success. It means that you did something right to have the quarterback go, oh, he's open.
You got open. You did your job.
Right. I mean, the receiver's number one goal is to get open, not to catch the ball, because, and I'm a firm believer of it, because like the receivers that create the separation are the ones that get targeted the most.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good call.
They just catch the ball because they're good. But all these guys made a career off catching the football.
Right.
They got drafted for catching the football.
Catch ball good equal good career.
Right.
But you got to get open in order to catch it.
Yep. Unless you're a 50-50 guy, but.
But even if you're a 50-50 guy, you're not getting 80 receptions a season on fucking coveraged balls. You got to get open.
Yeah, unless you're
It's true.
Megatron.
Even he got open though.
I know he got open a lot. I know.
He was just an athletic monster. And he also had a quarterback that just didn't care.
Which is infuriating and awesome at the same time.
I tell you what, though, I think it's really funny the amount of people that are like getting like butthurt about this article thing that came out about like this one guy was like, why on earth should the Detroit Lions put Matthew Stafford in their Ring of Honor? He came in, he threw a bunch of yards that meant nothing. He's like, if he's going in a Ring of Honor, it's the Rams. He won a ring.
I mean, I still think he deserves to go in that Ring of Honor.
For what?
Sure, the yards ended up meaning nothing, but he gave his heart and soul to that city for 10 plus years, gave you arguably the best wide receiver of all time. That's not named Jerry Rice.
Don't say that. Are you gonna sit here and tell me Matthew Stafford made Megatron?
No, but I don't think Megatron has nearly as good a career without Matthew Stafford. If Jared Goff's throwing to him, he doesn't have nearly as good of a career.
Yeah, but I mean, if Megatron played with Tom Brady, he would have had fucking twice as
But he
many yards.
didn't. He played with Matthew Stafford. I'm just saying, if he played with a quarterback of lesser quality. My point is, Matthew Stafford is of good enough quality. If you put him on a team that had talent, he could have gone to a Super Bowl, as evidenced by the fact that he left the team and immediately went and won one. It wasn't for lack of talent on his part. It's for lack of building the team around him.
I understand that, but he didn't do anything.
I mean, that's fair, but have the Bears put anybody in their Ring of Honor in the last 30 years?
I mean, you know, Brian Urlacher he was pretty good.
But he didn't do anything.
He got to a Super Bowl.
But they didn't win.
He got to a Super, but he still got to a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford barely made the playoffs. Brian Urlacher played it in at least 5 or 6 playoffs, went to a Super Bowl, won Defensive Player of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year.
All
Matthew
right.
Stafford didn't win any of that.
Pretty sure he won Offensive Rookie of the Year.
So, okay, he can go in the one-hit wonder Ring of Honor.
My point being is, sure, they can choose not to put him in there, but that's going to be the same thing that they're doing with Megatron, where they took a legend of the city and just are essentially telling him to go fuck himself. And they're going to wonder why they don't have a culture built up.
But, well, they do have a culture right now.
They do finally, and Calvin Johnson's finally coming back after they did their best to repair bridges with them.
And he didn't come back when Stafford was there.
What do you mean? He didn't come back to the team, or he didn't come back to like be an ambassador for the team?
Do anything.
He didn't, because the Lions burned him on the way out the door.
I don't know. I don't think if Matthew Stafford is. I mean, I know that they don't have to subject it to one Ring of Honor, but if he goes in one, it's the Rams.
I don't disagree. But I think it's disingenuous to say that he doesn't even belong in the conversation for a Ring of Honor for Detroit.
I mean, Jesus Christ, Matthew Stafford's made the fucking playoffs the same amount of times as a Ram as he did as a fucking Lion.
I'm pretty sure he's made it more.
No, it's the same. No, actually, no, I lied. He made it 3 times as a Detroit Lion and played 1 game and lost all 3 of them. He played more games as a Ram in 2021 in the playoffs than he did his entire tenure as a Lion.
Hilarious.
It's just disgusting to me to think that if you're going to make an argument in that case, you're going to put Jared Goff in the Ring of Honor over Matthew Stafford. That just makes my stomach turn.
Well, I mean,
that's what Jared Goff does.
But based on your arguments just now, based on what he's done, Jared Goff took them to an NFC Championship game. He should be in the Ring of Honor because he actually did something for the team.
listen, the fans.
If he goes out and sucks the rest of his career, he came out and he had one good year. That doesn't deserve him the Ring of Honor. But
Matthew Stafford's had no good career or no good years.
Who?
Matthew Stafford.
That's what I'm saying. He put together 10 years of doing nothing. I'm not saying Jared Goff deserves it because he did 1 year of one good thing. If he goes out and sucks for the next 3 years, then no, of course he doesn't belong in the Ring of Honor. But that's not the argument I'm making. I'm not saying Jared Goff deserves it over Matthew Stafford. I'm just saying if you're going to play a decade of football and put up 4,000 yards a year and not make the playoffs at all and win nothing, what's the good of being an all-time great on an all-time bad team?
I think it's just noting the time and commitment you gave to the team.
But so the other question is, here's the other question, because you get before you get into this thing. So I know Kendall's probably going to get to bed, and you guys still have to guess. How many contracts did he sign with the Lions?
Give me a second.
He signed one. He signed a 5-year extension for $135 million.
He signed 2 contract extensions with them. Signed the one when he was drafted, signed an extension in 2013, and signed an extension in 2017.
I don't know. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I get what you're saying. I think the city should be grateful for him. I think the fans should be grateful. But
I'm not arguing that he needs to be put in no matter what.
But it's just it's like saying like the guy who comes to work every day and does like does flashy stuff but to no productivity should get Employee of the Month.
Again, I'm not arguing that he should no holds barred be put into the Ring of Honor. I'm just arguing that it's disingenuous to say that it shouldn't even be an argument.
Well, it's disingenuous is there's fans booing him, and his family.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Why though?
It was the playoffs.
Yeah, but still, I mean, we've seen tons of players that have come to,
It's the playoffs. It's different.
I don't know. I mean, it would be different if you played there.
Kendall, I tell you what. Let's watch what happens week 1 of the season, because we go back to them week 1. If they boo again, you can be upset about it. If they cheer, it's just because it's playoffs.
But I'm just saying, like, if he played there 5 years and left and then won a Super Bowl with the Rams, yeah, boo the guy. But he was there a lot longer than that. Like, that's crappy. That's beyond not being put in the Ring of Honor crappy.
I don't know. I personally don't have an issue with them booing during that time frame. Because again, I think playoffs is a much different beast. Because you're not going to cheer for somebody when it's a win or die game.
I don't know.
You're just not.
I think it depends on the fan base.
I don't care who comes back. I'm not cheering for them if we're in the playoffs against them.
I think he also boomed because you brought in Jared Goff and he immediately made them relevant.
Not immediately. It took 2 years.
Yeah.
And he didn't make them relevant. They built that team from the ground up.
Still played pretty good.
He still played great. I'm a Jared Goff supporter for my life. I love that dude. But if he comes into LA in the playoffs, I'm not cheering for him.
Let's see. I want to see something here. All right, you guys got to guess.
Kendall, have you made any guesses?
No, because we anchored on pretty hard on this thing.
All right. So it's a tight end. Let's think of the best fantasy tight ends last year. Let's run through the teams.
Jared Goff had 2 good years as a Detroit Lion. Thank you.
He had last year and the year before.
Yeah, and both
The
those
2 years before that were not good years.
He's played 3 years in Detroit. His first year, he threw for 3,300 yards and 20 touchdowns.
And what was their record?
I understand that. I'm just saying, but like you made it seem like he was garbage.
But he didn't make them immediately relevant. Is my
He threw for so Matthew Stafford threw for 5,000 and 4,900 yards, and then the next highest would be Jared Goff last year with a lesser receiver than Megatron.
All right. Let's have this argument next week. Book it so we can actually have this. Let's see. NFL 32 teams. All right, Kendall. Dawson Knox. What do you think?
Okay. So I feel like
It's not rocket science here.
well, so if like T.J. Hawkinson was
Dawson Knox, Kendall.
what is your guess?
What do you think? Do you think he would be a top 10 receiver?
The only reason I'm going to say no is because I feel like he had a slow start.
Okay. Who's Miami's tight end?
God.
Mike Gesicki? No, that's Patriots now. Who's all right? If we can't even name who that is, then Patriots is Mike Gesicki. It was not Mike Gesicki last year. New York Jets. I can't remember who it is, but it's not them. Mark Andrews got hurt last year, right?
Yep.
Then the Bengals was Hayden Hurst, I think. No, Hayden Hurst was Panthers, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't wait to fuck up this broccoli salad later.
Can't remember who the Bengals tight end was. Oh, yes, I can. It wasn't him. I can't remember his name, but he came from the Jets, I think.
TJ, who's your mama?
I don't think it was Fujimama last year, was it?
Well, I know. So C.J. Uzama either went from the Bengals to the Jets or vice versa, and I don't remember.
Then maybe it was CJ Uzama, but he wasn't top 10 in receptions. David Njoku's not a bad guess.
Yeah, he kind of turned it on.
David Njoku. Paul.
Oh, you're guessing David Njoku?
Yeah.
Wrong.
We get 7 guesses, right?
Yeah, you're doing this as a team, so you get 6 left.
Steelers. Kendall, no offense, I'm going to say Freiermuth probably wasn't top 10.
No, he wasn't.
Texans was
It would have been
the kid from Dallas, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he didn't really jump up. Like he didn't have the numbers like he did in Dallas. He kind of picked it up later in the year, but I don't think he did.
Yeah. Colts. Who's the Colts tight end? Mo Ali Cox?
No way.
Yeah, no shot. Texans, Evan Ingram. Could have been Evan Ingram.
So he did have a like a pickup.
Yeah, he
year.
doesn't play for the Texans.
Jaguars,
I
but
said Jaguars.
You said Texans.
All right, I meant Jaguars.
I knew what you meant.
Could have been
I
Evan
don't know
Ingram.
who Evan Ingram plays for, but thinks I should take his Matthew Stafford argument seriously.
I will drive over there and drop kick you.
Evan Ingram is a possibility.
Front door's
Oh.
open, baby.
Evan Ingram.
Are you guessing Evan Ingram?
Yes.
All right, it was Evan Ingram.
Nice.
Was it really?
Yeah, he was fourth. He was fourth in the league in catches last year.
That's wild.
I like how you guessed Evan Ingram before Dawson Knox, though.
Well, I don't remember Dawson, because who's that other kid on Buffalo? Because I think he would have had more
Dalton
catches, but they
Kincaid.
split it 50-50. Kincaid.
I just thought it was funny.
All
I
right.
just thought it was
well,
funny that like you were like, you know what, Evan Ingram before Travis Kelce.
I just went down the 32 teams I pulled in front of me. I was going division by division.
Nah, you guys texted about this.
Probably.
No.
So you guys lose on technicality.
All right. All right. Closing arguments?
When did Matthew Stafford start in the NFL? 08?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 09 was his first year, right?
You're
He
right,
wasn't part
because
of-
Bradford was 2008, wasn't he?
He wasn't
No.
part of the 0-16 team.
Year after, correct?
No, right, because Stafford was drafted because of that.
Right. Okay.
There you go. Kendall,
Yep.
how's your beer?
Well, I had a couple of Miller Lights that were featured, but the thing I'm reviewing is I have a Smirnoff Ice Red, White, and
I
Berry.
forgot you were drinking those.
I think the idea here is that it's supposed to kind of, taste like a bomb pop. It mildly tastes like a bomb pop. It's like they're
Somewhat.
But here's the deal. All these Smirnoff and like the Twisted Teas of the world, they're fine. They are absolutely fine. Like for me, I would enjoy one or two kind of in passing. This is like the tweener beer. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a just fine, okay item. There's really not much to review. Either you like them, you don't. I don't know a lot of people who don't like them because they're traditionally sweet. Call it 4.6 out of 5. Wouldn't buy, but would get again.
Okay. Paul?
I had a bunch of Bud today, and it was just fine. Quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
And Kendall turned down free beer today. Just remember that, folks.
In fairness to Kendall, he probably wouldn't have gotten the beer anyways.
Just saying, he turned it down.
No, didn't turn it down.
Were you up and ready to go to Paige this morning when we all were talking about it in the group chat?
Up, not ready.
Yeah, exactly. So now that beer goes to Mike Mock.
No. Doesn't deserve it.
Oh, he's getting it. Oh, hey, Kendall, I have one toast of disexcellence for you that I really wanted to save for the end so that it could ruin the rest of your night.
Right away.
Hurry up.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Serious considerations are being made that for the foreseeable future, Miller High Life will be discontinued in bottles.
Yikes.
That's a bummer.
That is a bummer.
The glass that they use is very hard to obtain right now because they use a special tempered glass for the extra carbonation in the beer. They're in considerations to stop bottling procedures and start stockpiling glass so that for next summer they don't run into a glass shortage.
Would be a bummer.
Would in fact be a bummer. All right.
Seems like a personal attack.
Yeah.
No, I was going to tell you in the beginning of the show, but you made it seem like we weren't doing one. Then you surprised me with it, and then you said Massey was a better co-host anyway, so I could just join whenever I wanted because, I would just be the third wheel anyway.
Incorrect.
I have it all in writing.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. And next week, I don't know what we'll talk about. I think Kyle has something planned, but I'm probably wrong. So until then, socials. Kendall, where can they find us? Sorry.
Facebook, Getting Sports with Drunk. Twitter and Instagram, GSWD_4.
Make sure you use the hashtag GSWD for all your daily uses, whether it's staying up for an extra half hour, wondering if Massey's going to come drop kick your door, or, Matt Stafford blows as a lion. All-time great as Ram.
Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you find your internet and, podcast, whatever, we're there. iHeart, iTunes, figure it out. You guys are smart. We're there.
Yeah, Matt Stafford's better than Kurt Warner. You heard it here first.
Until then,
he's your hostess cupcake, the Mass.
I'm the Mass Chris Massey.
And the Red of Red Baron. Yeah.
Should have said Massey.
Massey.